Hey everybody, Daniel from Spacedock here. I just wanted to take this brief unscripted video to point out what I think is a series of terrible tactical decisions made by the Resistance in Star Wars The Last Jedi, and how a few simple changes could have easily salvaged the situation for the Resistance. Now, I'm not here to discuss the pros and cons of The Last Jedi, but I think it's fairly obvious that there's some broken tactics on display from both the First Order and the Resistance in this film. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to skip straight past the Battle of Dakar from the beginning, because I think that warrants an analysis in of itself, and go straight to the Resistance's retreat from the First Order and pursuit across the Crate system. The first thing I want to address is the lack of combat air patrols in this film. At this point in time, both the Resistance and the First Order have a large supply of faster-than-light capable fighters, and yet at the beginning of the film we see the First Order fleet arrive at Dakar having not launched any fighters, and this delay results in the Fulminatrix losing lots of its defense cannons before it can launch its fighter wing. Then later on, when the Resistance retreat from the system, they exit hyperspace having landed all of their fighters and don't launch a patrol squadron for any time in the next 20 minutes or so. Admittedly, the Resistance did not know the First Order would be able to pursue them through hyperspace having tracked them, but a situation like this speaks to the importance of always having a patrol squadron on standby. As in this situation, the First Order are able to launch a squadron, fly them across the entire battlefield, catch up with the Raddus, and destroy all of their landed strike craft using missiles before any of them can launch, which is a catastrophic blow to the Resistance that completely curtails their ability to fight back for the rest of the film. Now, shortly after this happens, Leia makes the observation that if they outrun the Star Destroyers by enough distance, the fighters attacking them will be forced to break off so they can go and resupply. Now, this is later proved to be a logical decision, because Kylo Ren and his squadron are indeed forced to fall back. But they kind of jump the gun a bit, because Akbar decides that he's going to set all deflector shields to full aft immediately, before they've outrun the fighters, and then the fighters just blow the bridge up, because there's no forward shields anymore. Now, it feels like they had kind of 50% of a plan, and then they just acted as if they'd already done it, and then everyone died. I mean, Akbar died because he decided to switch the shields off, which seems kind of out of character for Akbar. I mean, at least in Legends, the guy was kind of a genius. I guess maybe in canon he's just fairly good at detecting traps and not much else. But yeah, I can only point out that if they continued to run away with evenly distributed shields until the fighters broke off, then they could safely set their shields to full aft to tank all of the capital ship weaponry without having to worry about fighters flying around them and blowing up their bridge. I don't know if we're supposed to infer that the Resistance was acting and thinking too quickly because it was a desperate situation and they just slipped up, but I think it's more likely that this just wasn't properly considered in the making of the film, which is kind of a shame. Now, I will fully concede that the Resistance are in a very bad situation, being chased by a farcically massive fleet led by the ridiculously named Mega-class Star Dreadnought, and there's very little I can suggest that would help in any way. But I feel like one thing that we should have seen at least considered in a briefing scene or something is the idea of them splitting up their ships and fleeing in different directions. At least if some of the ships jumped away, they might cause some of the First Order destroyers to chase them. The Ninkar, the bunker buster that they have with them, is probably capable of taking out at least one Star Destroyer if it's placed well enough to drop some of its anti-planetary weaponry, and maybe they could even have coordinated some kind of attack to turn around and bomb the First Order's tracking devices without having to contrive a strange idea to send someone to maybe find a gambler who might know somebody else who can maybe get us into the laundry department of this Star Destroyer, whereupon it's possible that we might be able to sneak into somewhere and do something. I mean, it's kind of weird that that plan wasn't just laughed out of the room as soon as it came up. Now, frankly, I'm not loving the heavy negativity in this video, but I do need to get it out, so there's one last thing I want to point out before we wrap this up and go back to more positive videos, and that is after Holdo takes command of the Raddus with the intention to sacrifice herself to save everyone, she doesn't do the one thing that I was kind of expecting her to do when I first watched the film, and I was waiting for it to happen, and it seemed really obvious to me that she should position the Raddus to eclipse fire from the Supremacy, to place the fleeing shuttles in her shadow and absorb all of the incoming turbo laser blasts so that none of them can hit the shuttles behind her, and then maybe once they're out of the way, then sacrifice herself. As it comes across in the film, she stays behind and everyone leaves, and then she just sits on the bridge for like an hour. Like if she intended to sacrifice herself, it's surprising that she didn't just do it straight away. It seems like she stayed behind in order to sort of fly around a bit to maybe distract them or something, and then decides later to ram them. I have to wonder what she was thinking here. Like, there's not a lot one person commanding a broken broken carrier can do. And there's this huge extended sequence where she's looking out the window at everyone dying in the shuttles, and I'm thinking, just park between the shuttles and the bullets, or do your ram thing right away. Anything but sitting there for 20 minutes. I don't know, it's very strange to me. And frankly, there's so many channels that are constructed entirely to mock and ridicule The Last Jedi, and there's a lot about that film that I like. Not all of it, to say the least, but there's plenty of positives in there, I think, and I don't want to bring it all down like that. But these weird gaps in the logic just bugged me a bit, and I needed to point them out. So let me know what you think of the unscripted format. If it's terrible, I'll bin it immediately. But thank you all for listening, and this is Daniel from Spacedock, signing off. Thank you for watching Spacedock. Please remember to like, subscribe and share for more science fiction spacecraft summaries. If you enjoy the channel, why not consider pledging your support on Patreon? For just $1 a month, you'll be able to access the Spacedock schedule to see what's coming up.